I'm sure you guys know me, I know you. This is Vampire Preacher. Welcome to Vamp's Toy Dungeon, which, want to get some opinions. I want to know how people like the new name. After all, we do a very specific thing here, and it's called toys. We do unboxings. I'm sure you guys already know that by now, since this probably isn't your first rodeo here. So, let's just get into it. Today, we are unboxing the Marvel Legends X-Men Wave Caliban Wave. So, I'm really excited about this wave. I'm not going to lie to you guys. People who've come into the stream before know, I usually don't buy figures that don't have a build-to-figure piece. But for this wave, I might have made an exception. You'll see why. Trust me. It's obvious. Once we get to it, it's obvious as to why. You'll see. But we've got on our very 90s X-Men shirt today. This is one of my favorite cartoons back in the day, and we're going to see several of the fan-favorite cartoon characters in this wave today. But let's start off with some of our lesser knowns. Well, we'll start out with the most well-known character. Wolverine. Now, I have 100 Wolverine figures, and I really don't need any more, but the Weapon X variant of Wolverine, when he first got transformed into Wolverine from James Howlett, becoming Logan, I kind of love it. Even if I just have a mostly naked Canadian man sitting here in front of me, I still gotta admit, I love it. So, you guys are sick and tired of seeing me, and that's fine, because you're interested in the toys. So, let's see what we've got here. Of course, we've got our window pane in the front, our art on the side, the same art on the back, and all 7 members of this wave on the back here, along with our blurb. Now, we will have a bonus unboxing at the end of this stream, but spoiler alert, it's not of a Marvel legend. You heard me. The bonus figure is not a Marvel character, though they are owned by Disney. Whoever shall it be? Before we get to there, though, inside the packaging, we of course have this cool X-Men X background, the new style of packaging, the leg to our Caliban Build-A-Figure, who has a very odd foot here. I mean, look at that. He's just got 2 weird toes. Maybe he's just wearing a Tabby sock or something. I don't know. We have our extra unmasked, screaming mullet Wolverine. Which, alright, sure thing. We're going the full-on mullet mane. It's just a head of hair with him, his mouth just gaping open there. And then, of course, we have the figure himself. Wow, they've made him so incredibly short. I mean, we all know the rodent is a tiny, tiny character. Man, they made him incredibly short. Just trying to kind of get these tubes around so that they don't break on me. But as I do, I will give Hasbro the credit here. Sometimes they go great with detailing. Sometimes they go not so great. If you look closely, they have painted on his individual arm hairs on the figure. his individual leg hairs on the figure and his chest hair. But he does not have a hairy back. Kind of expected it since he's just a ball of fur. And let's call a duck here. This figure is just a naked Canadian man. It's so weird, but I still love it so. Now, an important question comes to mind. Since we do have the unmasked head, does our... Where does this unplug? It unplugs up here. Ah, good to know. That way, we can pop off our helmeted head and see our unhelmeted, our screaming mulleted James himself. I'm not sure if I prefer him with the masked or the unmasked head, and that's saying something because people that are frequenters of this channel and people that know my personal toy taste know I have a weird obsession with unmasked heads of action figures. Seriously, any superhero figure I can get with an unmasked head, I will usually display the unmasked head. Why? I don't know. Maybe it's because it's their alter ego and it's taboo for them to not have the mask on. I don't know what it is, but I love it so much. I genuinely adore the unmasked heads on figures. It's just like the coolest thing to me. But with this one, I don't know. I might go with the masked head just because it's so different. Enough of me talking about it. Let's get into our articulation here. For our head articulation, the old Snickbub can look a decent ways down, and yeah, I kind of figured that's as far up as he can look. This mane of hair gets caught in the harness, it gets caught in the back, it just gets caught. I'm going to guess his helmeted head isn't any better on the articulation standpoint. Nope, same degree forward, and yep, pretty much just looking directly at you back. Which is kind of a letdown for me, as I know with this costume, I would try and do a escaped version of Logan, with him full-on feral, down as low as he can go, trying to look up, just like the caged animal that he is, getting just newly released from that pod that he was in, that tank. So, the neck articulation's a little disappointing, but it's all because of that mane of hair we've got. We do also have, on this figure, the butterfly shoulders, which is a really nice thing. I love that they're starting to include that with all of Wolverine's figures, because the look of him with the arms all the way back, kind of shouting up to the sky, or him with his arms ready to like this, ready to lunge in at someone, it's become such an iconic thing. You can't not have the butterfly shoulders to at least let him do this. Like at bare minimum, this guy is known for getting his arms way back in a degree that's, one, disturbing, two, letting you know that your day is about to get wrecked. So, it still looks good. But, yeah, the butterfly shoulders are pretty much a necessity. They can go this far back, and they can go this far in. So he can give you a nice big ol' hug. I'm a little bit worried about the makeup of the tubing here. I don't know just how flexible it is, and if it wants to pop off at any point. So I'm going to try and be very careful with that. For our shoulder articulation, minus the fact that his wrist here is actually being dragged down, that's about as far as we're going to go. It's a T-pose, so at least we can get to that 90 degrees. You'd have kind of expected more because it's not like there's any armor that's impeding here. It's just the cut of the sculpt that's impeding. We, of course, have the bicep swivels. The double-jointed elbows, where you guys already know where this one's going. Is that good flex that we need? No, it is not. No, it is not. We want that good flex right here. That's what we need out of our Wolverine, and we're... that's just above 90 degrees. That's not cutting it. We also have the inward and outward wrist articulation. No extra hands for this Wolverine, not anything without the claws. I'm sure that there are other Wolverine figures that have bare hands and no claws. I know the Cowboy Wolverine is amongst them. So the newest 80th anniversary Cowboy Wolverine that they've just started releasing, which I believe is exclusively at GameStop, although I think you can get it on Hasbro's site as well, and probably Amazon. I might want that just to have unpopped hands without the claws. The claws that we've got are... they're thin, they've got a little bit of a bend at the tip. I think these are claws we've seen before, probably... they seem really short, too. Again, I think we've seen these claws previously. I think these are just kind of the standard claws that they've got. I'm actually thinking about upgrading to a set of steel claws, just because these, as you can see, they never quite stay straight, no matter what you do to them. They're always going to kind of get pinched up. I know there are sets out there for, like, cheap, for dirt cheap. Apparently they fit in perfectly to the joints here, so I might actually do an upgrade of that, especially with this particular version. I think he would look best with the steel claws. Enough of me customizing. Or is it enough? There might be more. Let's instead move on to our ab crunch. For our waist, or our ab articulation, rather. It's frozen. It is completely... never a good sound. So, we can go that far forward and that far back. It was frozen so much so that I thought I was going to need to do the old boiling water trick. We do have a waist swivel on him. For our hip articulation. It's alright. Is it fantastic? No, but it's alright. We of course have the thigh cuts here, but that seems to be frozen on that leg as well, so we'll use this leg to show our thigh cut. For our double jointed knees, that's actually a pretty great range of motion. And there's no boot and there's no sculpt that should be impeding it, so I expected it to be done well, but who knows. But that's a decent... actually, that's pretty great articulation. For our feet. For our ankle rockers, we've got a great degree inward and outward. Absolutely painful degree inward and outward. We can go a decent degree forward, and we should be able to, yep, go all the way on point going back. All in all, did we need another Wolverine figure? God, no, we don't need another Wolverine figure. But if they're going to do any alternate costume, the Weapon X one is at least a unique enough costume with unique enough accessories here. With the belt and the helmet and the chest piece here. That at least it's a unique sculpt. It's a unique costume, and the extra mullet head. It's comically bad, but it's also done in the art style that he was first introduced in when they showed him off in this costume. So I'll give it to him. This is a fairly... If I'm going to buy any Wolverine figure and actually not complain about it tremendously, it's going to be this one. So, if I'm going to give this figure a rating, it comes with the extra head, but no extra hands. It's a 7. I was going to give it a 6, but honestly, it's a 7. If you want a mostly naked Canadian man on your shelf, then pick it up. If you want this particular costume of Wolverine, definitely pick it up. If you just like the look of this costume, the way I do, or if you really want this mullet head or want to take all of the extra bits off here and put him next to, I don't know, Storm, because they had a thing at one time. Sure. Why not? Put on a regular Wolverine head, unpopped claws. I don't know. There's some funny photos that could be done. Yeah, with the articulation they did with it, and with the detailing of the arm hair, the chest hair, and the leg hair. The only thing is, I know that they've got other molds that they've used for Wolverine before that have the arm hair sculpted. Why didn't they use those? And I appreciate that they painted it on, but why didn't they use one of the sculpted ones? Beats me. Moving on. Now, I said I'd be doing some of the bigger characters a little bit later on. But I'm thinking I'm going to intermix them. I'm going to do some lesser-known characters. And then I'm going to do... Well, actually, because I had Wolverine as my first one, we should do it as bigger-known characters than lesser-known characters. So, might as well. So, for our next one, we have... of the Ravagers, Skullbuster, with an additional head of Reese. I'm pretty positive. Yes, the Reavers, not the Ravagers. Wrong team. My apologies. I knew it was out there. Start with an R. I messed it up. Of course I did. Anyway. Reese was best known from his appearance in the cartoon, and of course, from being on the Reavers team. Now there's the Skullbuster figure and the Reese extra head in here. We'll get into that in a moment. In the meantime, we've got our window pane on the front, our art on the side, which is just of Skullbuster. It would have been cool if they did one side as Skullbuster, one side as Reese, but whatever. We've of course got the art, our blurb here, and the collection of characters on the back. On the inside, we've got our same X backing. Of course, the modern packaging that is being used by all of the modern-day Marvel Legends. Our pistol, our extra Reese head, our absolutely massive Caliban hand, which is monstrous. One could call it a monstrous hand. I'm not at all alluding to the fact that I'm pretty sure it's the same mold as the Monster Venom mold. And of course, we've got our Skullbuster figure. Who is admittedly pretty cool looking. I believe he's on the Hyperion buck. I don't know, I can't actually see underneath the vest that they've got here, so I can't definitely tell. But I believe he is, because I know he's on one of the larger bucks that they've done. Not gonna lie, I love some of the little extras they gave him. The belt, the vest here. I'm trying to see if it's a newly sculpted chest. I believe it is. It might be based on the Hyperion buck, but with a bunch of the pieces here, like these sculpted legs, which do not look to be the same as Colossus's legs, nor the arm is the same as Colossus. They might have just made up a new mold, which is something really unusual for Hasbro. Now, of course, the gun here actually does do something that I wish all the figures that have weapons and Hulksters would do. It actually fits. Takes a little bit of doing, but yes, it actually fits into the Hulkster here on the side. One, making it so you don't lose your accessories. Two, making it so it's not forced to be in his hands. And I'm fine with that. And it's probably going to be in his hands when I display it, but I do like that you can do that as an option, or I can give him a much larger weapon and have that just kind of Hulkster there because, well, we don't need to see that. For our articulation, we'll start off as we always do, with the head. We've got a decent degree of downward neck articulation and an alright degree of upward neck articulation on the Skullbuster head. Now, on the Reese head, which I will admit to you guys, I'm probably not going to be displaying the Reese head on this figure. I've seen some people take the Reese head and put it on the older Cable figure that was part of the Juggernaut wave. I'm thinking that's actually going to be the best look for this figure. Although, admittedly, the Reese head does look pretty awesome on this body as well. But I know Reese and Skullbuster have very different looks to them. He actually still has a great deal of downward neck articulation. And that's the sound of the head popping up. But he's got actually the same amount of backward neck articulation. So, if you wanted to grab two of these guys and put both of them on the same body, you could. For me personally, though, this head is going to go on that Cable figure, as I have the new 90s Cable figure that they did with his more classic look. So I'm not really going to be displaying the newer look of Cable. I'd rather use that body for this head to get myself a little Reavers team going, along with my ToyBiz Lady Deathstrike figure. Although, let me tell you, it'd be super nice if Hasbro redid Lady Deathstrike in a much better figure. It'd be super nice. That being said, let's get into the rest of our articulation here. For our shoulders. So, our left shoulder is playing with us much nicer than this right one is. I'm not sure if that is because of the vest here or because of the sculpt on the arm, but we're getting a little bit less than a T-pose. It's not quite T-posing. It's close, but it's not quite there. We, of course, have the bicep swivels. For our double-jointed elbows. Ouch! Let's hope that's not the same on both sides. Actually, funny enough, this one goes above 90 degrees. This one won't go to 90 degrees. That's... We'll go with funny. And that's what our elbow articulation looks like. Neither side can give us that good flex. Neither one of them. I mean, look at this. It's 90 degrees. I need to move out of camera frame just to show you. I actually think that's less than 90 that he's got going here. The other one's just above 90 degrees. Ooh, not a good look, guys. I'm sorry. Ouch. That is some painfully bad elbow articulation there. We do not have any kind of glove articulation and kind of forearm articulation as we've seen in some previous figures. But we do have something grand with this figure that we don't normally get. We've got the inward and outward wrist articulation on his left hand, but we also have that rare gem, ladies and gentlemen, up and down wrist articulation. Yes, for a character that uses a weapon, we actually have upward and downward wrist articulation. Seriously. They gave us the thing that they should give standard with every figure that uses a weapon. Upward and downward wrist articulation. But here we are, celebrating the fact that a figure that should have it does. Which will only make it better when we try and have him, yep, he can do a draw with his pistol because of it. It's going to take a little bit of doing here because his hand is a little bit tight. But at least he also has trigger fingers, unlike most Punisher figures we get. But yes, we can actually have him doing a draw pose, and that just makes me happy. That makes me all kinds of happy. That makes me so many kinds of happy that I can have him reaching for his pistol instead of just always having it in his hand. That is some great detailing. Kudos, Hasbro. You guys did well on a figure that you easily could have phoned it in on, as I don't see people rushing to get Skullbuster from this wave. Well done. So, let's undo that holstered position, which now he doesn't want to undo, so that we can test the remainder of our articulation. Specifically, we do have a ab crunch here, a very frozen ab crunch, where he can go this far forward and that far back. He's not bending over backwards for you, but he still has a decent range of motion to him, especially for a big guy. We do have a waist cut here. I thought for a second we didn't, but these figures are just so... This wave that I've been getting, everyone's so tightly wound. It's hard to get them to move. For his hip articulation, better than Logan. We've actually got a pretty decent degree of hip articulation on him. We, of course, have the thigh cuts here. The double-jointed knees can go decently far back. They're not great, but they're decent. A lot of that is being impeded on by the flash of the top of the boots here, and a little bit by the back of the thigh, but mostly by the top of the boots here. You can actually see where it rubs if you look closely there. It's still decent. I mean, I'm not going to put him down in a crouching position like I would Logan, but I can at least put him into a running position, so that'll work. He does have boot cuts as... He does have boot cuts as well. Which is only appropriate since he is wearing separate boots. For our feet, we've got some pretty fantastic ankle articulation there with the rocker ankles. With the forward and backward ankle rocking action here, though, we can go a decent degree forward and can go all the way on point back. All in all, I'm not going to lie to you guys. This figure turned out to be a lot better than I was expecting. I was expecting them to really just kind of phone this one in. And it's Skullbuster of the Reavers. He's a third-rate team of mutant hunters. I didn't expect it to be this well done. Color me surprised. I'm really happy with the job they did here. Giving us the Reese head makes it so that we've got, if you've got the old ToyBiz Lady Deathstrike, you can have 3 of the Reavers. It's going to be a little bit hard to make the rest of them, since one of them is half tank, half. The top half's a person, the bottom half's a tank. It's going to be a little bit hard for them to make that as a figure. That being said, I like it. I actually really like it. I like some of the decisions done with the figure. I like the up and down wrist articulation on his right hand, the in and out wrist articulation on the left hand, as well as the, why is he a grabbing claw for that hand? It's a little bit of a weird choice aesthetically, but it works. Maybe I can give him a large rifle and have this as an underbarrel hand. That'll work for me. All in all, you know, I know it's going to seem cliched, but I'm giving him a 7. The figure's a lot better than I expected it to be. No, I'm giving it an 8. I'm giving this figure an 8. Strike that old one. Take it off the record. We're giving him an 8. This figure is a lot better than I expected it to be for a figure that they easily could have just phoned in. I like it. I'll be honest, I like it. I like it a lot. I like the design choices they've done with him. I like the cool Mad Max style vest. I like the fact that the Hulkster's functional. I like the extra head to make a small Reaver team. I like it. And they might even be hunting one of our later reveals today. So, let's move on. I'm too excited. I can't hold back. I can't hold back anymore.
Can't hold you back anymore.
We're going for it. We're going for it right now. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the big figures that I've been so excited for today, and I know you guys have been too, the Raging Cajun himself, Gambit. Now this figure does not come with a build-to-figure piece. Not one. I know, it's weird. I got a figure, he doesn't have a build-to-figure piece. You guys know I don't usually do that. But it's Gambit. This is the first time we've gotten a Gambit figure since, I believe it was the, it wasn't the Apocalypse Wave. No, it was the Sentinel Wave of Build-to-Figure. Might have even been before Build-to-Figure started being a thing with Marvel Legends. I know that the original ToyBiz Gambit has a large Sentinel base for the hand, or a Sentinel hand base for posing him on. But, and a cloth coat of all things. But it's been a very, very long time. We're talking over a decade since we've gotten a figure of the Raging Cajun himself, and the first time Hasbro has ever attempted it is right here in front of you. So, enough of me talking, let's get into what we've got in front of us here. So, of course, we've got our window pane front, our art on the side and back, Remy's little blurb there, all of the figures back here. Inside of the box, of course, we've got the same X logo that we've had on everything else, along with the new Marvel Legends packaging. We have a new staff, which doesn't seem as bendy as the old staff did, because the old one was very flexible, we'll say. We have this awesome effect piece, which, not gonna lie, I adore. I adore the fact that they gave him a hand that throws playing cards. They had an effect piece very similar to that for the ToyBiz version, but a little bit different. It wasn't sculpted into the hand as they do now. It was just something you could kind of put into his hand. Kind of like this playing card, which is charged up, but it was very prone to falling out of his hand. That being said, it was a cool effect piece for back in the day, but now I'm just happy. But maybe that's because Gambit is actually, I will be 100% truthful with you guys. Scout's Honor. Gambit is one of my favorite characters. Of course he is. He's one of everybody's favorite characters that was in the 90s, but I love Gambit so much. Between him and Cyclops and Beast, they are three, and Nightcrawler. They're an Angel. Fine, 5 of my favorite characters. But they're not Wolverine or Cyclops or one of the normal people that you see everybody, oh, my favorite character is Wolverine. Yeah, I know it is. Everybody's favorite character is Wolverine. Not mine. This guy. This guy's where it's at. Anyway, I'll be 100% open and honest with you guys. I love the fact they even made a figure for him. And they made him in his classic outfit. They didn't try and do one of the more modern outfits or anything like that. They put him in that very 90s trench coat over cool costume because you made a cool costume for Halloween, but it was kind of cold out, so your mom told you to put on a jacket. I love it. Now, some things of note. Yes, this is the same trench coat we've been seeing for over a decade. It is the Nick Fury trench coat. Yeah, they really need to replace this thing with any better coat. Maybe the one they did for Frank Castle that they had for the Netflix wave of figures. They need to stop using this same one. Also, single jointed elbows are going to limit your articulation possibilities with him, but you're also able to do that, which is, man, that's just such a cool pose. And just having him looking at the playing card, kind of half looking at you. And that's a cool pose to have. It makes me oh so happy that they gave him an extra playing card. Alright, we'll get into posing in a moment. First things first, articulation. For our neck articulation, he can look down on everyone that hates him and look up with hope fairly well. I'm not a huge fan of this sculpt of the hair here, as the hair is actually a separate piece. If you look not even that closely, you can see the line that connects the head and the hair. Kind of want to change out this windswept hair with something a little bit less ridiculous, but in person it doesn't look as bad as it did when it was first revealed. For our shoulder articulation, we can get a folk T-pose out of him. We do have the bicep swivel. The single jointed elbows, of course, you guys already know it as well as I do. Is that good flex? No, it is not. No, it is not. That's 90 degrees. Man, this is Gambit we're talking about. Mon cher, the Raging Cajun gotta be able to do better than that. And that's just not doing it for me. For our wrist articulation, we once again have the up and down wrist for his closed hand for, of course, his staff. Again, that makes me so many different kinds of happy that he can indeed point his staff at you instead of having it just be the in and out. No, he can be intimidating using said staff. He can actually use it the way it's supposed to be used, and that makes me all kinds of happy. For the other hand, we do still have the in and out wrist articulation, but I think that works. I think that just works with how this hand is. just because we get this kind of action going on. And that's what I'm talking about. Let's see if we can get that headshot there. Ah, that's well done, Hasbro. That makes me all kinds of happy. For our waist articulation, we do have an ab crunch, and he can go a great degree forward. And of course, the coat is going to limit. Yeah, that's as far back as he can go. I wasn't expecting anything much because this coat is going to limit all of that articulation. We, of course, have the waist cut here. For our hip articulation, it's an alright degree of in and out hip articulation. It's not fantastic. It's not as good as Skullbuster's was, which is a surprising thing to say. But it's a decent amount of hip articulation nonetheless. I love the detailing on the sides here. And actually, this isn't just painted on. If you look very closely, this is raised. They actually did a new sculpt just to have those lines raised on the sides of his thighs. That's really nice. Well, yes, we of course have some sculpt reuse here. The coat, the arms for said coat. But beyond that, it seems to be an all-new mold here. Maybe the hands are reused? Maybe? I'm not even 100% sure. I couldn't really tell you. But we know that the leg pieces are fresh. The knee pads have to, of course, be fresh molds. Same thing with the... Actually, the hip and the thighs all have that as sculpted, so that's all new. Along, of course, with the chest appliance here, and, of course, the new head. Well done, Hasbro! We, of course, have the thigh cut here. For the double-jointed knees, I'm actually going to pull this out a little bit so that we can see without having the coat, making it harder for you all to see. You can get a decent amount of bend here. It's not quite 100%. It's not quite as good as Weapon X's double-jointed knees, but it's a decent amount. Additionally, he does have a boot cut. A little bit happy to see that on here. For his ankles, we do have the rocker ankles, which go a tremendously painful degree inward and out. His foot can go a great degree forward, and of course, Remy can also go all the way on point. And before I give it my official review, let's pop out this hand and pop in. Now, of course, this effect piece has no articulation to it. It's just an effect to have him tossing out his cards. But I think it's an effective look, having him tossing out the cards while menacingly pointing his stick at his target. It's called a bow staff. I'm well aware of what it's called. Doesn't change the fact that it's just a big stick. Out and out, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love the figure so much. He is going to replace my ToyBiz Gambit easily in my displays. I love everything they've done with him. I love the effect piece. I might grab the old Gambit's effect piece and give it to this new Gambit as well, just because I can. I love the extra playing card here. I love that they included that as just an extra little thing for we collectors and for the different posing that can be done with it. I love it. I love every last bit of this. I love everything they did with it. And honestly, I know that they can't make these waves all the time, but Hasbro, this wave has been a knockout. We're only 3 figures in, and it's already a knockout of a wave. I might be jumping the gun saying it there, I'll be honest, but that's because I know what's coming up, and I'm excited. We've got some real heavy-hitting, high-caliber figures here coming up soon. For this figure, he's a 9. He's a 9. If you don't have the ToyBiz Gambit, even if you do, grab this figure. Grab it. Grab it. There's no reason not to. He's double packed to the case. Every case of this wave of figures, this Caliban wave, has 2 Gambits in it, even without the build-to-figure piece. Even more of a reason. Even if you're a casual collector that just likes Gambit as a character, if you have an X-Men display and you don't have the Raging Cajun to go along with his Mon Cher Rogue, grab it. Just grab it. This is an amazing figure. I cannot recommend it highly enough. I love everything they did with this. I love this figure. It makes me all kinds of happy. There's like 2-3 things that they could have changed to make this a 10 out of 10. And it's just like, give him double jointed elbows. Give him a different coat. That's it. That's it. Those are the things keeping this from being a perfect 10 figure. It's the elbows and the coat. Beyond that, it would be a perfect 10. Grab this figure. If you see him out in the wild, if you're a big fan of the 90s show, if you're a big fan of the X-Men, if you just want yourself a really cool Gambit figure, grab it. It's great. And it makes me very happy. Moving on. We've been showing a pattern here. We're doing a larger known character, a lesser known character, we're going to do a pattern like that today. So, that means we've got a lesser known character. Although, I have a soft spot in my heart for this character. I do. And it makes me very happy to finally say that we are unboxing a Marvel Legends Blink figure. Now, Blink has not had a figure since the 90s Most Wanted wave, which was a very, very long time ago. The Most Wanted wave gave us figures like X-Man, and there were 2 others, and I don't even remember who they were, but I know that Blink was amongst them. Just trying to get the rest of the things set up for the remaining unboxings today. Because I'm such a fan of Blink, I have that figure from back in the day. I'm a big fan of the Age of Apocalypse storyline. Friends of mine, people that know me, know that's actually my favorite storyline in all of Marvel. My favorite alternate universe is Age of Apocalypse, where Blink calls home. Now, she has been integrated into 616. This is more of her 616 costume. It doesn't matter. It's finally, for the first time in plastic, a Marvel Legends Blink figure. Enough of me talking about how much I love this character. Enough of me going on and on about how happy I am that we finally got a figure of her. Let's get into it. So, of course, we've got our window pane on the front. We've got our art on the side. The same art on the back. All of the different little rogues gallery that make up this line. And our blurb all about Clarice Ferguson. Of course, the backing is the same we've seen on the other figures of just this great big X here. Our build-to-figure piece is the other leg for our Caliban Build-A-Figure. Our very large, apocalyptic, almost monstrous Build-A-Figure of Caliban. You see, the joke is that it's a reuse of a previous mold that we saw in Monster Venom and Apocalypse for a Build-A-Figure. Just saying. Anyway. She also comes with 2 of her light daggers to open up her portals here. We've got the figure herself. Hello, Clarice.
Hello, Clarice.
And a portal, which makes me very happy. Now, in that previous Most Wanted figure that I mentioned previously, how many times can I say previous in one sentence? We did get a portal, but it was this huge, unwieldy thing that was really hard to position, and it had 2 openings, and you were supposed to put her hand and her foot into each one of them, and then just close it around them. And the articulation on that figure was not great. I might do a side-by-side with this figure and that figure on my Twitter, just so that you guys can kind of see the differences between the two. And the differences in the sculpt. Just how much more advanced this is. As well as maybe trying to get this figure into that figure's old portal. Because that would just be like the penultimate for me. Our light daggers are pretty much just hunks of very soft plastic. But they fit perfectly well into Blink's hands for posing her getting ready to toss these things to make portals everywhere. Enough of me gushing about how much I love the fact that I have this figure in my hands right now. And something of note is with the soft goods plastic that is her portal, it actually has a bit of a, I'm not even sure what to call this indentation here, a pit, a moat, what have you, where you could easily put this onto a hanger, onto a nail, what you shall. Put this on the wall to make it appear as though she's popping out of one of her portals. Although, I'm probably not going to be using that with her. I'll probably be using that old figure's portal for her, and use this for a figure that we'll be unboxing next week. Who it will be, who it is, who it shall be, who I can speak English today.
English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
You might just need to come back and find out next week to see exactly who will pop out of this portal. In the meantime, before we get to that, let's get to this figure. So, for our articulation, for our downward neck articulation, she can look down pretty far, even with the choker collar here, which is not sculpted or tacked on here. It's just kind of there. For her backward neck articulation, her hair is impeding any further backward neck articulation, so that's all. But it still works. For our shoulder articulation, we can get just over 90 degrees. So we can get just above a T-pose. There's, of course, no bicep swivel on this figure, because why would you ever give a bicep swivel to a female figure, Hasbro? And with her single jointed elbows, I don't even need to say it, You already know where I'm going with this, Hasbro. Fix this. Give your female figures double-jointed elbows. It's worked in the past. It will be just fine. Trust me. Give them double-jointed elbows. That is as far as it's going. So we are not getting that good flex. We're not even beginning to get that good flex out of our Blink. She does have the swivel here at the elbow, which is just painful and weird and gross looking. For her hand articulation, it's the in and out wrist articulation, which... Why, Hasbro? Why? You gave Skullbuster an up and down articulation. Skullbuster. You, of course, gave it to Gambit because you should, and he's going to be your big moneymaker for this wave. But come on now. Come on. For the first ever Blink Marvel Legends, you gave her the standard phoned in and out wrist articulation. No double jointed elbows and no bicep cuts. And, I'll get it out of the way now, no ab crunch. I see where you saved your money on this wave. That's all I'm going to say, Hasbro. As I mentioned, she only has a waist swivel, so she can go side to side ever so slightly. That's as far forward as she's going, and that's as far back. That's it. That's all of her waist articulation, which is just sad. Of course, there's no waist cut here because she's got the swivel here, so you should be able to put up with that being all that you can do. Sure, why not? For her hip articulation, decent. It's not quite as good as Skullbuster's. It's about as good as Gambit's. With this leg, of course, being an exception because it won't go any further past that. She does have the thigh cuts up here. For her double-jointed knees, that's very odd. The space in here makes it so that she can't go quite as far back as Weapon X. Wolverine's got better knees, and she's got nothing impeding it besides this knee joint here, which is just a really weird articulation choice on Hasbro's part. Whew. Moving on, the cuffs, of course, are just loosely on here, so we do not have any kind of boot cut for the figure. For the ankle articulation, we do have rocker ankles going a decent degree in and a painful degree out. Her forward ankle articulation is pretty good. And her downward ankle articulation's alright. She can't quite go on point, but she is close. And as you guys have been noticing, I've been fighting with this skirt of hers because it's not actually pinned down at any point. It's just kind of there. All in all, is it a good figure? Good enough. Is it a figure that I'm going to be displaying? Of course, it's a figure I'm going to be displaying. She's from my favorite storyline in all of Marvel Comics with Age of Apocalypse. So yeah, I'm going to be displaying her. I'm going to be displaying her probably popping out of a portal, looking just like this, just angry and holding energy. Her teleportation, light daggers. Actually, I believe these are just resculpts of the same daggers we saw from Dagger of Cloak and Dagger fame when we got a figure of her in the Spider Wave. That being said, does she look awesome popping out of her portal here? Yes, of course she does. I mean, come on now. Just look at that. Look at that and tell me it's not an amazing looking scene to have in your Marvel Legends collection, especially if you're a big fan of the character, which, as we've mentioned, I am. I'm a huge fan of the character, so I might be a little bit biased, especially since this is our first ever Marvel Legend of her. All in all, though, because of the stunning articulation choices, I'll give her a 6. 6 out of 10. Is she great? No. Am I going to be tossing her into the bin? Well, of course not. Is she the best version of Blink that we've ever gotten in Marvel Legends form? By default, yes. Yes, she is the best Marvel Legends Blink. That's what happens when you're the only Marvel Legends Blink. If you want a complete Caliban, grab her. If you're a big fan of the character like I am, grab her. If you need an update to that Most Wanted figure because it was not great, definitely grab her. If you've got an AOA display that you really want to have her in, grab her. I really like it, but that's because I really like the character. Bunch of different decisions could have been made in this articulation to make it really shine. An ab crunch would have been perfect. Double jointed elbows would have been perfection. And the up and down wrist swivel instead of this in and out garbage because of her light daggers, her portal daggers, what have you. Yeah, that would have just made sense. But I still like the figure because I like the character. So, do that. Have it as you will. Personally, I'm still going to display her. Am I 100% happy? No. Can they have done a better job? Of course. Is she bad? No. Moving on with our obvious pacing of this video of popular, unpopular, popular, unpopular. Let's move on to a highly anticipated release. I'm incredibly happy for this one, especially since I did not get the build-to-figure of this character when it was out, because it was amazingly hard to find. It was stupid hard to find at Toys R Us, where it was an exclusive build-to-figure in a wave of 5 figures, one of which didn't have a build-to-figure piece, which means you needed to get a hard-to-find Storm, a impossible-to-find Strife, a hard-to-find Cyclops. I'm trying to remember who the 4th one was, or were there only 3 that had... Was it a line of 4? Because I know that there was a Wolverine in there. It might have only been 4 figures. I do not honestly remember. If there was a 5th figure, I apologize. You weren't memorable. So, of course, that means our next unboxing today is Jubilee. Jubilationally, we'll call it what it is, the main character of X-Men the Animated Series on the 90s cartoon. I know there's going to be someone that's going to be, how dare you call her the main... That was her point. You were supposed to be introduced to the team through fresh eyes. She was those fresh eyes. And this is the outfit that you probably know her best in. The yellow jacket, the jean shorts, the jorts. Oh, the 90s, you were not great for fashion. The pink sunglasses. Just everything about her was so 90s it hurt. With our figure, of course, we've got our window pane front, our art on the side and back, our little blurb all about Jubilationally, and all of the other figures in the wave. In the box, we've got that same background that's got the X logo here. Popping that to the side so we can get into what we've got inside of here. So, we have the torso for our Caliban. Of course, that will be the last figure of the wave that we review today, is our Caliban Build-A-Figure. Now this, version of Caliban will be based off of his time as a Horseman of Apocalypse, and not, as I know my wife was hoping, off of the Stephen Merchant version.
Fatty, adopted Fatty.
Popping him together, just from what we've got, he's already turning out to be, and say it with me, a big, beefy boy. Inside the plastic, we've got not one extra set, but 2 extra sets of those pink glasses. In case you lose one, or in case you want to display it differently, what have you. We also have a separate head of her popping bubblegum, which, if there's anything that screams out Jubilee, that's it. That pretty much encapsulates the character all in one. Guys, I cannot express to you just how happy this figure makes me. I'll be honest, I cannot describe how happy I am holding this figure in my hands. I genuinely thought that the only figure we were ever going to get of Jubilee was that build-to-figure of her weird time in an all-black outfit underneath the yellow trench coat, where she was too serious and was a vampire for a time. Sure, why not? This being the more classic version, the version that I think is even somewhere on this shirt, it makes me so incredibly happy. Just having the mall rat in my hands, it's going to make my Marvel Legends display really shine, and it makes me a very happy person. They're giving us these wanted figures, these figures that I've been dying to get for ages. All in this one wave, let's be honest here. They packed them in. Gambit, Blink, Jubilee, and 2 others. We won't mention who they are right now, and 2 others. That's 5 figures that I desired tremendously. Did I really genuinely want another Wolverine? No, I didn't. But it's a good version of Wolverine to have. Did I really want Skullbuster? Not really. Did he turn out to be great? Yes, he did. But I didn't really need to have a Skullbuster figure. The other 5, immediate purchases. Not even a question. Just thought. So, enough of me going on and on about how much I love having this figure in my collection. Let's get into the figure itself. For our neck articulation, she can look down a substantial degree, while also looking up an amazing degree. The only thing that's popping her head up from this is the popped collar of her coat, which, again, if that doesn't scream 90s, I don't know what does. For her shoulder articulation, even with the coat here, we're getting slightly better than a T-pose, so that works. We'll get it out of the way now. Does this figure have double-jointed elbows? Does it have bicep swivels? Does it have an ab crunch? You and I both know those answers. It's a female figure, but it does have something that the others don't. 1 out of 4 ain't great, though. 1 out of 5 really ain't, or 2 out of 5 really ain't great. It's not a passing grade, Hasbro. You guys can do better. So, as I've mentioned, no bicep swivels, no double jointed elbows. That's as far as our figure is getting. Is that going to get... Nah, not even close to that good flex. That's a 90-degree angle. Come on. Come on, Hasbro. For our wrist joints, we have the in and out. which is just fine for the character. It doesn't... What?
You never played Tuber Simulator.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let me get this straight. Hasbro, you gave Blink, who uses the light daggers to throw out her portals, you gave her just the in and out wrist articulation, but Jubilation Lee, you gave one hand in and out and one hand up and down wrist articulation too. You guys are seeing this, right? I'm not going insane here. This hand is in and out. This hand is up and down. A figure that doesn't use any weapons at all has the up and down wrist articulation. Oh, if that's not a bizarre choice, I don't know what is. Anyway, moving on from that incredibly bizarre choice, we of course have the ab swivel, where we've got this as our back and forth articulation, that as our forward articulation, and that is our backward articulation. Between the coat and the ab swivel, yeah, she pretty much can't bend backwards whatsoever. She does have, and the thing that really perplexed me, she does have an ab or a waist cut. I didn't expect that. Most female figures Hasbro don't have a waist cut. So there you have it. For our hip articulation, she actually has the best in the wave. She ties with Skullbuster, of all people, for having the best hip articulation. I think she might even be a little bit better, which is weird, because she has more clothes on her hips than Blink does, yet she has better hip articulation than Blink. I don't know. I can't explain it. She does have the thigh cuts here. For the double-jointed knees, I'll pull out her knee like I did with Gambit so that the coat isn't completely covering it. She can go a pretty decent degree back. She can't go quite as far back as Wolverine, which is, again, weird. Just like with Blink, there's really nothing here impeding on the sculpt, but I need to physically press this back to get her knee to stay at that angle. It's weird. It's just some kind of flash with the actual joint itself. She does have a boot cut here, which would be 0.2 out of 5, where they did things right. For her ankle articulation, she's got the rocker ankles, which can go a pretty decent degree inward and outward. The belt at the bottom of the boot here, I don't know if you guys can see the belt at the bottom of the boot. There's your alliteration for the day. It does impede her rocker ankles just a bit, which can also go this decent degree forward, and she can go nearly on point. Not quite on point, but nearly on point backward. Of course, because we've got two heads, we're going to pop off that one, pop on our wholeheartedly irreverent bubblegum popping head. Although our neck joint seems to want to come out on this figure, and that's not a good thing for someone who's got multiple heads. And the neck joint is pretty much left the figure. Hasbro, that's not a good thing. Especially when you give us multiple heads to a figure. Assume that people are going to want to change those. we've nearly broken the bubblegum trying to get this head onto its own joint. I'm going to stop there because I feel if I keep on working at it, that joint is going to just completely break off. With the extra 2 pairs of sunglasses, you can give her the sunglasses onto the bubblegum blowing head, or you can do the more iconic thing, kind of put them they don't quite stay when you try and put them up. They stay a decent amount. They'll stay, I guess. Because if we know of Jubilee, she's usually got her sunglasses up. She only really puts them down when she's using her powers. Which is another unusual choice that they made with this figure. Of every figure that they've given those same effect pieces to, you know the ones I'm talking about, the sparkly hand effects. This figure isn't one of them. I have no idea why. That's pretty much exactly what her hand effects look like, and to not give those to her is... it's just insulting. And yes, you've done some great things, and yes, you gave us the figure, and I'm sure we're all happy. This head pops on just fine. The alt head, not a chance. Which is kind of sad, because I really want to display her with those sunglasses up instead of just always on. She's too fun-loving and easygoing to not display like this. With the bubblegum and the glasses up. Even with finding a set of those effect pieces and giving them to her. Which we might even see in a later wave in a few weeks from now. Not next week, of course. Next week, we'll be seeing who gets Blink's portal. For a couple weeks from now, though, we might see who's going to be gifting Jubilee her new hands. All in all, do I like the figure? Yeah. Do I like all of the design choices made? No, I can't even put on her alt head without it nearly breaking the figure. That's not a good thing. I don't like the lack of... we already know what I'm going to say. Double jointed elbows, bicep swivel, ab crunch. I don't like that this figure doesn't have any of those. Do I like that it has extra sets of glasses? Yes. Do I like that one set of glasses is permanently affixed to the head here that doesn't have the bubblegum? No. Of course not. It's weird that they chose to do that. I guess it's so that you don't lose the glasses on this one, but you already gave us an extra set just in case we lose them, so I don't see what the problem is, really. Especially since, if you look closely at them, I didn't even notice this before. There's a tiny little nub on the end of the... let's try and get that in frame here. There's a tiny little nub on the end of the glasses. I don't even think it's visible on the camera, because I didn't notice it. To kind of keep them in place so that they don't come falling off. I think those are supposed to go, yeah, right above her ear. There's a little divot there to make those stay. Is it a good figure? Yeah. Is it a great figure? No. Is it iconic for your X-Men collection? Yeah, it's Jubilee. It's Jubilee, not in her weird, all-black, might be a vampire, because there was a point where she was a vampire, outfit. It's in her outfit where she looks just fine next to Remy and the remainder of the 90s team. So, should you pick her up? If you've got any kind of Marvel Legends collection, any kind of X-Men display, yes, you should pick her up. Of course you should. Is she perfect? No, far from it. She's got a couple things. The neck joint on mine in particular, all of the things that they need to improve with the female bodies just in general. Is she alright, though? Yeah. My final verdict on this figure... 7 out of 10. I wanted to give her an 8, but honestly, she's got a few too many things wrong with her, and the neck joint on mine is just inexcusable for me. Inexcusable, because I really wanted to display this gum-popping head with the up sunglasses, and the lack of an effect piece, it just compounds the issues of them giving us something, but not quite giving it to us all the way. Moving on. We're going to go to a lesser-known character, but he's still a fan favorite, once again from that 90s show. I know I love him, but I've got personal reasons for that. This is the second time he's ever been committed to plastic, just like Jubilee, but Jubilee was a build-to-figure previously. Now, she's a single-pack figure, as she should have always been. The second time this figure's ever been committed to plastic, neither time was a build-to-figure, but the first time was part of a 2-pack that was exclusively at Walmart, of all places. That figure is Forge. Now, I've got a special place in my heart for Forge, but that's because he's one of the very few Native American characters in all of Marvel. There's not a whole lot of us, so I'm happy that he's got a figure. Getting into the figure itself, of course, we've got our window pane front, our art on the side and the back, our blurb, all about Forge, with the remainder of the characters for the wave. We've got that same X background with our new, more modern Marvel Legends packaging. Our Caliban build-to-figure, our rather monstrous Caliban build-to-figure arm. You know, I'm putting him together, and he doesn't look a thing like Stephen Merchant.
Who the hell was born in 1990?
Our Forge figure comes with 2 weapons. Both, I'm going to guess, of his own creation, as that is Forge's whole deal, is he makes stuff. Already, these are turning out to be a problem. The fringe for his boots isn't held on by anything, just kind of held on by friction, and already both pieces of fringe have tried to escape his body. Now that seems like a waste. The body for this figure has a peg here in the back. So you could use a flight stand or a peg stand to make it so that he's in a more acrobatic pose. But 1, it's Forge. I'm not going to really be putting him in an acrobatic pose. 2, that seems like the perfect place to put this rifle if there were a peg anywhere on it. I'd love to have this rifle just kind of sitting here on his back, whilst having this one here on his hip, which again, working Hulksters, thank you Hasbro for that. Shouldn't be something that needs to be thanked, but apparently it is, since Hasbro has such a penchant for giving us Hulksters that are non-functional, that we thank them whenever we have ones that are functional. Getting into the articulation on this figure. For our head articulation, he can look down a decent degree, and even with the ponytail, actually has a decent degree of upward neck articulation. For our shoulder articulation, That's all that we're getting out of him. He can T-pose, but not too well. We, of course, have the bicep swivel here. Ooh, for our double-jointed elbows, that's it. Now, that's mostly due to this gloved gauntlet here getting in the way. And it's coming up every time I'm trying to bend his elbow, but even with double-jointed articulation, is that good flex? I don't think so. Not even close. That's barely above 90 degrees. That's it. It's not good. Sorry, Hasbro. That is not a good look. Ouch. Moving this back so that I can actually get at our wrist. It looks like Forge here has the standard, yep, in and out wrist articulation. Is it the same way with both? It is the same way with both hands. Hasbro, come on, guys. What did I say about weapon-wielding characters needing the up and down wrist articulation? You've done so well today. You've given it to us for characters that don't wield weapons. Why? Just why? For our ab crunch, we've got a great degree of forward articulation and a decent degree of backward articulation for Forge. He, of course, has a waist cut. For our hip articulation, it's about on par with Wolverine. It's not great, it's not horrible, it's passable. Again, I don't know how many acrobatic poses I'm really going to be posing Forge in, so I'm not that worried about it. More so, I might have him hunkered down with this rifle in hand. Or, since it's about the only pose his arm can do, maybe have him with the rifle up here, like this. Since his arm articulation is, we'll call it limited. That might be probably the best pose we're going to be looking at with Forge. It's just kind of having him upright with the rifle in the air, kind of looking outward. We, of course, have our thigh cuts here for our double-jointed knees. Oof. It's not great. It's better than 90 degrees, but not by much. Ouch. He does have a boot cut underneath the fringe on his boots here. For our ankle articulation, for these rocker ankles, he is rocking them in and out a painful degree. Can go forward a pretty decent degree, and he can go all the way on point. All in all, when it comes down to it, is this a fantastic Forge figure? Again, for more of your alliteration for today. It's a serviceable Forge figure. The fact that they only gave him one set of trigger fingers, but 2 guns, is mildly troubling. All in all, is he a great figure? No. If you don't have the Walmart exclusive 2-pack with him and Wolverine from as long ago as that coat that we saw on Gambit, that's how long ago the last figure of this character came out. That's over 10 years ago. If you don't have that figure, grab it. Yes, have him in your X-Men display. Is he a perfect figure? Not even close. Is he a good enough figure to have in your display? Well, yeah, definitely. It's Forge. You need Forge in your display. 1, because he's the gadget guy of the X-Men. 2, he makes so much cool stuff. And 3, he's just a cool character. We'll say he's just outright a cool character. All in all, could he have been better? Yes, definitely. But I know you're not here to listen to me bellyache about how they could have done this, that, and the other. You're here to know, should I pick it up? Long and short of it, yeah, pick him up, put him in your display. If you don't have the previous Forge, and I'll probably throw up some pictures on my Twitter, comparing the two figures, so that you can see what the old one looks like compared to this new one, then yeah, go ahead, pick him up. 6 out of 10. 6 out of 10. He could have definitely been better. He could have been worse, of course. It doesn't take much for Hasbro to make worse figures. But could he have been better? By leaps and bounds. They could have given us a peg to go along with this rifle. They could have given us the up and down articulation for the hands instead of the in and out wrist articulation. They could have given us a second trigger finger. They could have given us so many things with this figure, and they didn't. He's not even wanting to hold this rifle correctly, no matter how I try. So I'm going to stop messing with that. That's 6 on 10. Is he good? Yeah. Is he great? Not even close. Should you get him for, again, a very 90s X-Men display? Yeah, totally. Moving on to the figure I've been anticipating the most from this wave, and that's saying something. When we've gotten Gambit, we've gotten Jubilee, we've gotten Blink, we've gotten Forge, we've gotten Weapon X. The first time we've seen Weapon X as a figure since the earliest days of Hasbro, since before build-to-figures were a thing. I'm still anticipating this figure above all of them. That is because Hank McCoy hasn't had a figure in Marvel Legends at all since about the same time as Weapon X. He didn't have a build-to-figure piece with him either. It's been a very, very long time since we've gotten anything for Beast. I've already heard great things about Dr. McCoy and just how fantastic they did with this figure. So, let's see if the rumors are true. Let's get into it. Of course, we've got our window pane on the front, our art on the side and the back, our blurb all about Hank McCoy, and the remaining figures who we've all broken down previously in this review. We've got the same backing that we've had on all of the other figures today. Hasn't been any different backings like there were on our previous review of the Far From Home wave, or some of the other waves that we've seen. We also have the final piece of our Caliban build-to-figure. Who is, of course, going to be our next review today. And the last review of the wave, as always. Especially now that he's all assembled and we can see just how big he is. Hank does come with 2 extra hands. And I can safely say all of the money for this wave went into this figure. Oh, I'm already incredibly happy. There's only one thing that could have made me happier, and that's an extra head. And maybe a lab coat. It has been a very long time since we've seen Beast in plastic form. And if you guys are noticing the way I am, there are some marvelous things that they've done with our articulation here on this figure, which we will be getting into in just a moment. This is a whole new sculpt. If you can't tell looking at it, this is a brand new sculpt from the ground up. There's nothing here that's been reused. And you can tell that with certain things, namely in this region here, but of course there's also the prevalent sculpted blue fur everywhere, which just looks so cool. I'm a little disappointed they didn't give us a peg back here for him, because he is someone I will put into an acrobatic pose, but hopefully this hand will make it so that I can put him into that acrobatic pose. For the articulation on this figure, this is going to be a minute. That is as far down as his head can go. However, it can go up this far. That's going to come into play with the posing that I'm probably going to be doing for Dr. McCoy. He also has butterfly shoulders, just like our Wolverine did, and they can go quite a distance here. Like that is quite a distance back with Beast's shoulders here, and can go in a fair degree as well. That's wonderful. For his shoulder articulation, he's got a decent degree up and down. He can't quite T-pose. He's very close, but he's not quite getting there. He does have the bicep swivel, the double-jointed elbow, which he can get a decent way towards that good flex. Is it 100% there? Nah. But it's a pretty decent flex we got. For all of our hands, every single one of them seems to have that in and out wrist articulation. Yep, all of them. The closed fist, the completely open palm, the two different grasping hands, they all seem to have just the in and out wrist articulation. Now's where this gets unique. So, this figure has an ab swivel, as you see here from me turning him at the torso. It also lets him bend this far forward and this far back with just the ab swivel. However, you'll also notice he has an ab crunch in addition to the ab swivel, meaning he can go this far backward and this far forward all together, giving him a great range of motion. Now, does he have a waist cut? He does not have a waist cut, but he does have the ab swivel up here, almost negating the need for a waist cut. Actually, it looks a little bit more natural having it more like this than if I had turned him with a waist cut. And honestly, I wish that they would make all of their figures like this. Give us all of the remaining. Any upcoming figure, give us an ab crunch and an ab swivel, and I will be happy as can be. Give them all butterfly shoulders. Give them all bicep swivels. Give them all double-jointed elbows. And you'll see me be happier than you've ever seen. For our hip articulation, he can go a great degree out. Actually, that's the best hip articulation we've seen today. We've, of course, also got our thigh cuts here, which are a little bit tight, but that's alright. We've got our double-jointed knees, which can go as far back as Weapon X's. Even with the extra fur and the extra sculpting here, he can get them a great degree backward. For our rocker ankles, he can go a disgusting degree in and a painful degree out. He also can go up so far and can go all the way on point back. He also, if you're noticing, has toe joints. Yeah. That's the first time we've ever seen that from Hasbro. Toe joints. So, we have toe joints. We have butterfly shoulders. We have an ab crunch with an ab swivel. This is the best engineered figure that Hasbro has given us. Now, I know the pose that they're attempting to get you to do here. And, of course, the head pops off on me. They tried to base this on a certain comic. The figure's actually based on a certain comic of Beast coming in with his legs up, balancing on his hand. Seeing if we can get him to go into their proposed pose here. Seeing if we can get him to balance on it is a whole nother thing. It's going to take a little bit of doing on my part, but for the most part, he can get that pose that they were thinking of. And that is a beautiful thing. They saw a comic book panel and they said, we want him to be able to do that. And he can. That is what I like to see. Hasbro. Well done. This figure makes me all kinds of happy. The only thing that would have made this even better is an extra head with him having pupils and not being screaming, and a lab coat. Doesn't even need to have sleeves. Just give us a lab coat that we could pop onto him. Because, yes, Hank can be very beastly, and can indeed unleash the beast. Now, to be fair, I said that they haven't done a beast figure since the ToyBiz days. That's not entirely true. There was one other beast figure. It was in an exclusive Toys R Us 5-pack of the first class of X-Men, and it was his human form of Beast, not his big blue furball form. And as far as the comics go, we haven't gotten a furball Beast since those early ToyBiz days. Now, of course, we did get the Kelsey Grammer Beast back with X3. Was that a good figure? No, it wasn't. But we did indeed get a Beast back then as well. So I might have been speaking slightly out of turn when I said it's been so long since we've gotten a Beast that is our classic blue furball, not from a movie, not in human form. Since we've gotten just, when you think of Beast, This is what you think. For me, he's going to be a 9 out of 10. I know what you're saying, Vamp, with as much as you're talking about him, surely he's a 10. Surely you must be joking. I'm not joking, and please, don't call me Shirley.
I am serious, and don't call me Shirley.
Is he great? Yes. Is he fun? You betcha. Can he be a little bit better at balancing the way they want him to be? Well, yeah, if that elbow wasn't quite as gummy as it is, he sure could be. Which is weird because the Thing can balance actually better than Beast. It's slightly odd to me. It's all because that elbow is just a little bit too loose. Yeah, that elbow is the reason that he keeps on popping down here. Maybe I'll be able to balance him better later on. Something I'm going to need to get into on my own time, since they've done so many great things for the articulation of this figure. It would be a genuine shame to not really have fun with the different ways that he can be posed, and to just kind of pose him standing there. I know, it's weird that I didn't give him a perfect 10. It's weird that they have this really, really loose joint here for his balancing arm. It's especially when we've had so many other really tough joints today. It's weird that they only gave him one head. Maybe a future figure down the line will come with the normal Beast head. Fingers crossed. Much like we got the normal Onslaught head after the Red Onslaught wave came out. We got a standard head, but you had to get Kitty Pryde to get that back in the Juggernaut wave. All in all, is this figure fantastic? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's great. It's the best engineered figure they've done, and I don't know if I'd call it my figure of the year, but it's up there. It's definitely up there. Is it wonderful? Yeah. Should I get it for my X-Men collection? Have you not already? Go, get it. What are you doing sitting here waiting? Go get the figure. Could it have a couple of improvements? Yeah, but again, that's an extra head, maybe a lab coat, and a better joint for that elbow. That's really it. Beyond that, I'm satisfied with this figure. I'm very satisfied with it. It's going to be replacing my... I don't even know how old my Beast is. It's from before Marvel Legends, take it like that. It's the last time I really liked the look of the Beast figure. I didn't even like the ToyBiz Beast because I didn't like the floppy Muppet jaw they gave him. It just wasn't my thing. I had my Beast, I was good with it. There was no such thing as a build-to-figure back in the day, so I didn't care to get a replacement. This is going to be the new Beast in my collection, and I love him. And yes, he's going to look wonderful next to the rest of the incredibly 90s team that they've given us today. I mean, right there, that's a beautiful thing to see. It makes me very happy. It makes my nostalgia flare up. It's awesome. All in all, outright, yeah, grab the figure. It's worth it. Alright, moving on. So, we've done the entire wave thus far. We've done Weapon X, Gambit, Beast, Forge, Jubilee, and Blink. And Skullbuster. Skullbuster was there too. We remember you, Skullbuster, and your extra Reese head. We remember you. So, that means there's only one figure left for the wave, and then our bonus figure comes up afterwards. So, our figure for... our build-to-figure for the wave, because I can talk, I swear, is Caliban. Now, I know what you're saying. That's not Stephen Merchant. No, it's not. Not even close. Stephen Merchant was nowhere near this ripped to be Caliban in Logan, because this is based off of his appearance as a Horseman of the Apocalypse, not based off his standard comic book appearance. So, let's get into it. Let's see exactly what we've got here. Now, as I've mentioned in this review earlier, this is not a new mold for the most part. The chest, the legs, the arms, we've seen all of that before with the Monster Venom and the Apocalypse Build-to-Figures. The only things that are really new are the head. Even the hands are the same ones from Monster Venom. The little bracers here seem to be fairly new. And the toes, I believe, are new because it's weird feet that only have 2 toes on them. So, should be pretty much third verse, same as the first. But let's get into it and see exactly what we're working with here. So, our downward neck articulation goes right to about there. The screaming head kind of limits that. Same goes with the backward neck articulation. For our shoulder articulation, we actually are getting better than a T-pose. I'm amazed to say our best shoulder articulation of today is with our build-to-figure. I've got nothing else to say there. We've got our bicep swivels here. Single-jointed elbows. Ooh. Caliban. You might be a big, beefy boy, but you're not getting that good flex, man. We're not getting that out of you. We're getting... what is that? Is that even 90 degrees? That's... Nah, man. We're not letting you out of physical therapy with that. You gotta do better here. You gotta do better than that. You gotta be able to get that good flex. Eesh. We, of course, have our hand articulation, the in and out wrist articulation, which is fairly standard for the wave, with the exceptions, of course, of one of Gambit's hands, one of Jubilee's hands, one of Skullbuster's hands. Very odd choices for some of the articulation in this wave. So, with this figure, we do have an ab crunch, which can go that far forward and that far back. We do have a waist cut here. For our hip articulation, some of the best hip articulation we've seen today is in our build-to-figure. I think that even beats out Hank McCoy, aka Beast's hip articulation, and Skullbuster's. It's amazing. We, of course, have the thigh cuts, as that's where the figure's legs attach to the torso. We have the double-jointed knees, which have the best articulation of the day. It goes farther back than even Weapon X's. That's... I have no words. I have absolutely no words right now. I mean, the Build-to-Figure has better articulation than some of the other figures than all of the other figures, as far as range goes. Now, did the Beast figure have more articulation? Oh yeah, it does. Oh yeah, and he's got better articulation options. But here we are with the knees, the hips, and the shoulders all being better on the Build-to-Figure as far as range goes. That's crazy to me. Similarly crazy, he's got boot cuts, even though he doesn't have separate boots on. Alright, some of the figures that have separate boots today didn't even have boot cuts. I'm not going to complain. Seriously. Hasbro, I will never complain about you giving me more articulation. More is better. More is better. It's just kind of weird. That's all I'm saying, guys. It's just kind of weird. For our rocker ankles, we can actually go a pretty decent degree in and out. I'm not going to say it's quite as painful as some of the other ones we've seen today, but it's not bad. We've, of course, got that much forward articulation, and he can go almost on point and backwards on his ankles. All in all, I'll be honest with you guys. Is this a build-to-figure that I needed to have? No. No, not even close. I'd have preferred a slimmed-down Caliban, more of the kind that we saw with Stephen Merchant in Logan. Not Monster Venom Part 2 Electric Boogaloo. That being said, was I going to get this build to figure anyway? Well, yeah. Did you see the rest of the wave? Beast? Jubilee? Gambit? Forge? Blink? Yeah, of course I was going to get this figure anyway. I mean, I was 2 figures away from having this build to figure just because of all the figures I wanted from the wave. So yeah, I was going to get it. Could I have not gotten Skullbuster? Yeah. Why would you, though? Especially since Skullbuster right now is on clearance at GameStop for $5. Seriously. Go on their website, go to your local GameStop, pick up Skullbuster, $5. Pick him up. He's actually a really cool figure, especially for $5. Is this the greatest build-to-figure of all time? No, not even close. Is he going to be prominently displayed? He's going to be a background character, if anything. I'll be honest. He's going to be a background character. Is he fun? Is he well articulated? Yeah. Will I probably put him next to Apocalypse as one of the Horsemen? Yeah! I mean, if I've got an Apocalypse figure and I've got a Horseman of Apocalypse, then I might as well do a 4 Horsemen of Apocalypse display with all of them. So, yes, of course I'm going to display him. All in all, as a build-to-figure goes, because it's so much parts reuse, it's a 5. It's a 5. Unless you really want this particular version of Caliban, unless you really need to have this particular version in your setup, it's not a really necessary build-to-figure. But if you're getting all of the rest of the wave, because again, we've mentioned all the other figures in here countless times, we've reviewed them all, they're great. They are fantastic. The Beast figure was the best engineering Hasbro has ever shown us. The Gambit figure was as close to perfect as they could have made a Gambit figure. The Jubilee figure? Yeah, it was great. I mean, mine had a couple problems, and yes, there are definitely things that could have been done better on it. The Blink figure? Come on now. It's the first time we've gotten Blink. Yes. Yes. Grab her. Grab the whole wave, and you get this guy as a bonus. Honestly, that's all that Caliban's going to be for me, is just a bonus figure. But so that you guys can see a size compare, before we get on to our bonus figure of the day, because we do have a bonus figure that isn't a Marvel Legend, but I'll show you why in a moment. Here he is next to the rodent. So, he's slightly larger. And next to someone who isn't quite as short, here he is next to Beast. Beast is just about a head underneath him in terms of height. But Beast was a single-carded figure. Is he a big, beefy boy? Yes. Is he the biggest, beefiest boy? Is he super-duper heavy? I'll be honest with you, I think Beast is heavier than he is. But Again, if you're getting the rest of the way for the remaining amazing figures in it, take Caliban, put him on a villain shelf, put him with your Apocalypse, try and make it so that it doesn't quite look like they're the exact same figure with a different head and different hands. So, our last figure of today is, as I've said before, not a Marvel Legend. Why would you be doing this, Vamp? What's gotten into you? You unbox Marvel Legends, it's what you do. Why are you doing this?
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Well, it's for a good reason. It's because this figure is going to be used for customizing one of our figures from today, and it was purchased just for an accessory. But we get an extra figure, so might as well unbox it. Our final figure of today is actually... it's Chewbacca. Now, this is the Target exclusive, and if you can see, I even got it on clearance for a reduced price. It is the Target exclusive. I believe it was... this one was for the Solo movie. Doesn't matter. I bought it for one accessory. But I can still put him in with my Star Wars display. We've got our backing here, where we've got a blurb all about Chewie. Our window pane on the front. Inside, we've got Chewbacca. We have not a bowcaster for him, just a laser rifle. And the entire reason why we bought this figure this set of goggles. That's right. The whole reason why we bought this figure was for this set of goggles. So we're going to put that off to the side for later on. In the meantime... oh, well, that's tricky of you, Hasbro. Wasn't expecting the rubber band there. Let's take a look at the fur ball. And then I'll explain why we got these goggles. So, yeah, our neck articulation is pretty much non-existent. I mean, look at the amount of fur here. Yeah. That's as far up as we're looking, that's as far down. Our shoulder articulation... even with the fur, we're getting a T-pose. Single jointed elbows, which... oof! Chewy! Yikes. That is... ow. The fur on the upper arms here is actually making it so that we can't go any further than that. And that's only in one position of the arms. We've got no bicep swivels. Yikes. We've got the in and out wrist articulation, which Hasbro has standard apparently across all of their different waves of figures, all of their different lines. We have a ab swivel here with that much back and forth articulation, and he can go that far forward and backward. His fur actually has a cut in the sides here. Do we? No, we do not have a waist cut there. I shouldn't keep on prying with that, otherwise it's going to come apart. For our hip articulation, though, even with the cuts, that's as far as we're getting. Ouch. We do have thigh cuts here. For our knee articulation, there's single jointed knees, and that's as far back as he's going. Chewy, my man, my main man. That's not good. That's not good. That's not knee replacement therapy good. Ouch. Not a good look, man. We seem to have rocker ankles under here, but we can't do a whole lot of rocking. you can go that far in and pretty much not at all out. Or forward and backward, that's as far forward, and that's as far back. He's slightly above being a statue, if I'm being honest. That being said, for a clearance price, if you can find him for, like I said, I think I paid like $5-6 for him. I know what it said on the carton, but it rang up for a lot lower. Man, he can't even hold the rifle with 2 hands, but at least he can one-hand it. I guess I can kind of get him to... Yeah, I can get him to... I can, with a little bit of playing with it, I can get him to 2-hand the rifle. If you're a Star Wars collector, if you're a Chewbacca fan and you want a Chewie for your display, or if you just want the pouches for another figure, go on ahead and grab him. Honestly, yeah, he'll go with my Star Wars display. Because I've got a few Star Wars figures. I don't have a whole lot. I mostly have too many Boba Fett's, and some of the weirder one-offs, like, I know I've got the original Kylo Ren figure, the first one they did, with him with the helmet on. But I've also got, like, Darth Revan, Ahsoka. I think I've even got a, yeah, I've got a Farm Boy Luke that I got just for the arms, so that I can take his arms, pop them off, and pop them onto the Netflix series Elektra, so that she had double-jointed elbows. Out and out again, if you want a Chewbacca figure for your collection for $5, $6, then yeah, go ahead, pick them up. They're prevalent at all the Targets around me, and they're clearancing them out just to get them off the shelves. Now, for the reason why we got him, that's simple. Welcome back, Beast. The entire reason why this figure was purchased was to give Dr. McCoy a set of goggles. That's it. That's the whole reason why I bought that Chewie, was for this exact look. Just to put a pair of goggles on Hank McCoy's head. Again, give me a lab coat, preferably a non-screaming face, I'll be set. But I really think that kind of pulls together the figure here. But we, of course, do not rate figures based on aftermarket and customizer modifications. We rank them based on what we get out of the box. So, that Beast is still going to be a 9. He's not going to get the coveted 10. Chewie here, yeah, he's a 6. If you really want Chewbacca for your display, if you don't have a Chewie for your display like I didn't, grab him. Because, again, you can get him for like $6 now. If you want those goggles for your Beast, definitely get him. He's worth the $6 because those goggles alone are going for that price online. In the meantime, I've got a furball now to go with my remaining Star Wars collection. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to end it today. We've gone through our Caliban wave. We've gone through our bonus figure. We've gone through all of the different things we could go through today. And I'll admit, I'm really happy with the Caliban wave. Is it the perfect build to figure? No. Is it a great wave? Yes. Yes, it is. I'm so happy about what we got with this wave of figures. There's a couple things that could have been improved, but it was... It was a choice selection. Very well done today, Hasbro. So, next week, join us, as next week we are doing the Wendigo Wave. That's right, our next unboxing is going to be the Wendigo Wave unboxing, and for that we will have 2 bonus figures, but they will both be Marvel Legends this time. They will be on brand, I promise, no more one-offs. For now. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us, guys. Make sure you tune in for that Wendigo Wave unboxing, since I'm very excited about the bonus figures. I'm excited about the wave. I'm excited about a couple of the figures in that. I'm really excited about a couple of the figures in that wave. I can't wait. So, once again, thank you everyone for joining us today. I've been Vampire Preacher. You've been awesome. Keep it nerdy, guys.